She told me she wanted to sleep with another man over salmon and Chardonnay. No warning, no build-up. Just casually dropped it between a sip and a smirk, like she was ordering dessert. "It's just one night with my CEO," Melissa said, her eyes gleaming like she expected me to laugh or object or start some jealous tirade. "He's my fantasy, that's all." I folded my napkin, set it beside my plate, and replied, "Okay, that's it. Just okay." No raised voice, no thrown glass, not even a twitch. I think that shook her more than if I'd flipped the whole damn table. She blinked twice, waiting, no begging for a reaction. But I just tilted my head slightly like I was considering a weather report. She chuckled uneasy now. "You're not even going to ask who he is?" "I'm sure he'll introduce himself eventually," I said, sipping my water. "One way or another." You could see the gears stutter in her head like a train skipping a track. She didn't expect indifference. She expected ego, drama, a man's pride to ignite and give her a reason to storm out. Feel righteous. But all she got was silence. And silence doesn't give you anything to argue with. We slept in the same bed that night. She turned away from me. I didn't move. She probably thought I was stewing, but I wasn't. I'd already made the first call. And I know this probably sounds insane to most people listening. But believe me, over 97% of people who hear this story never subscribe. I'm telling you that small click does more than you think. Tells the team this story matters. The people like you actually want more of them. And trust me, this one goes somewhere. Hit subscribe, then keep listening. Because that next morning, I rose before sunrise like always. Iron shirt, tie knotted, polished shoes. Melissa didn't stir, probably exhausted from plotting her little fantasy. I left her a coffee mug, not out of kindness, habit. And when I walked out, I didn't look back. I didn't have to. I'd already mapped every single step. She thought I'd given her permission, but I wasn't agreeing. I was documenting. Melissa's always misunderstood quiet men. She thought silence was permission, or worse, powerlessness. She never saw it for what it really was. Planning, precision, leverage. She'd been married to me for 18 years and never once asked what I really did. She knew I consulted something legal adjacent. That was enough for her. As long as bills were paid, dinners were posh, and the Range Rover had gas, she didn't need the details. But Melissa forgot one crucial truth about fantasies. When you chase them blindly, you step right past the edge without realizing the drop. And her CEO, Daniel Mercer. He wasn't just some powerful man at the top of Courage's pyramid. He was already in my way. She just gave me the perfect reason to move him. And unlike Melissa, I don't chase fantasies. I erase threats. By the time she woke up, still tasting wine and self-satisfaction, I was already on my second meeting of the morning. And Daniel Mercer? He was just beginning to feel the first hairline fracture in the floor beneath him. But Melissa, she still thought she was in control, that I'd sulk, maybe rage, eventually forgive. She thought she'd play the bold, liberated woman who owned her truth, and maybe cry some tears if things got bumpy. She had no idea the machine had already started. She'd always called me boring, predictable, said I lacked spontaneity. But she never understood that predictability isn't dull. It's dangerous when it's strategic, when it lets your enemy believe they're safe right before the fall. She wasn't going to see the collapse coming because it would arrive slowly, quietly, and then all at once. The scream on the other end of the line was so loud. Melissa dropped her phone. It was 6:12 a.m. Her head was pounding, mouth dry from last night's Merlot, and sunlight was barely creeping through the curtains when her phone exploded with the shrillest ringtone she'd ever heard. "Private number," she answered on instinct, still half asleep. "The merger's dead." Daniel's voice cracked through the speaker, pure venom wrapped in panic. "The board just called an emergency vote." I walked in, and they were already seated. "Who is your husband?" Melissa sat up in bed, heart lurching, chest tight. "What?" she whispered, not even fully processing the words. "What are you, Daniel? What are you talking about?" He didn't repeat it. He just exhaled through clenched teeth like he was being watched, like someone was standing right behind him. Then click. Silence. Call ended. She stared at her screen. 6:13 a.m. Her notifications were lighting up with news alerts, investor group emails, and Slack pings with subject lines like WTF, an emergency board session. Now, she stumbled out of bed, opened her laptop, and within minutes, the headline was there. Courage Novatech merger halted. Sources cite unresolved conflicts. Deal placed on indefinite hold pending internal review. No quotes, no official statement, just a carefully worded miss. She opened her work chat. Dozens of messages flooded in. "Did you know what happened? Did Daniel really tank it? What the hell's going on with the transition shares?" And then one private message from CoreEd's general counsel. "Please report to HR by 9 a.m. Administrative leave pending clarification of internal disclosures." Clarification. What the hell needed clarifying? Still barefoot. She sprinted to her husband's office. Locked. That was weird. Charles never locked his study. She rattled the door knob. Nothing. Not a sound from inside. The car was gone. She opened her email. Nothing from Charles. Nothing from Daniel. But 3 different press releases from Novate's investor relations team had hit her inbox in the past hour. All of them had one thing in common: a new signatory on a controlling interest block. Langston Advisory Group, offshore, effective immediately, has assumed oversight review over compliance processes tied to transitional equities within the Novatech CoreEdge joint structure. Langston, her husband's full name, was Charles Henry Langston. She never used it, never had to, but now there it was on an offshore advisory filing tied to Novatech, tied to the merger. Her hands started to shake. She scrolled faster, her fingers slipping on the trackpad. A PDF loaded. Official acquisition documentation. She zoomed in. C.H. Langston Strategic Counsel. The same man who tucked her in every night, who folded her laundry, who watered the garden, who didn't blink when she told him she wanted to sleep with her CEO. Now, that same man had just put his hand straight into the mouth of the merger and ripped out its tongue. Melissa ran to the kitchen, stomach clenching. She was going to throw up. The kettle was still warm, like he'd just been here, like he'd made his tea, like nothing had changed. She picked up her phone again and called Daniel. Voicemail. Tried again. Straight to missed call the 3rd time. Then she got a text from an unknown number. "Your silence was your signature, Sechel." She dropped the phone. The panic hadn't peaked yet. That would come later. Right now was the confusion. That awful gnawing confusion you feel when you realize someone wasn't sleeping beside you all these years. They were watching, recording, planning, and now moving faster than anyone she knew. Especially Daniel. Because for the first time in 10 years at CoreEdge, Melissa saw something she'd never seen in her CEO's eyes before. Not dominance, not arrogance, but fear. She walked through the Courage lobby like she was on a different planet. Same clothes, same air, but nothing felt familiar anymore. The receptionist gave her a strange, pinched smile. Security didn't greet her. They watched her. 2 years ago, she strutted through this building like she owned it. Every click of her heels a declaration. Now, her steps felt too loud. Echoes of uncertainty. Every hallway was suddenly longer, colder, whisper-filled. Co-workers who once lit up when she entered now avoided eye contact, whispered behind glass, nudged each other after she passed. She knew that look. It was the same look she used to give interns right before they got the boot. Then came the tap on the shoulder. Char smiling falsely gentle. "Can we talk?" She didn't fight it. Not much point. They led her into a beige room that smelled like paper and bleach. Sat across from her like she was radioactive. The HR rep didn't bother with small talk. "Melissa, you're being placed on administrative leave, pending internal review of undisclosed relational conflicts with a member of executive leadership." Relational? What the hell does that mean? She snapped. The rep didn't blink. "You're aware that failure to disclose personal relationships that pose a conflict of interest with company leadership, especially during M&A activity, is grounds for disciplinary review up to and including termination." "I didn't do anything," she barked. "It was one dinner, one conversation with the CEO." Silence, the kind that thickens and squeezes. Melissa's jaw clenched. Her eyes darted toward the HR folder. Her name was printed at the top in bold. She reached for it. The rep slid it away politely. "You'll be notified when the investigation concludes. Effective immediately. You are to surrender your badge and company-issued devices." It was happening fast. Too fast. This wasn't a probe. This was execution. Coordinated clean. She walked out of the room numb, ears ringing. Her badge didn't even beep when she passed through the turnstiles. It was already deactivated. She rushed to her car, unlocked her phone, opened LinkedIn. Charles Langston. Nothing. No profile, no activity. As if he'd never existed. "What the hell?" she muttered, switching to Google. Charles H. Langston. One result, just one. An offshore corporate registry database hit. Langston Advisory Holdings Limited. Location, St. Kitts and Nevis, filed 4 months ago. Category Financial Consulting and M&A Risk Compliance. Recent activity 7.4% acquisition of Novatech Class B voting shares. Signing officer C.H. Langston. She stared at it, blinked, reloaded the page, then read it again and again. Her pulse throbbed in her ears. It wasn't just that he had a company or that he'd bought into Novatech. It was that she had never even known his full name. C.H.L. Langston. She married him, slept next to him for 18 years, shared bills, vacations, birthdays. She knew how he took his coffee, how he hated cilantro, the exact way he double-knotted his laces every morning like a ritual. But she'd never thought to ask what the H stood for. Never bothered with what exactly he did for work. Just consulting was enough, because Melissa never asked about things she assumed she owned. And now she was realizing that the man she thought she owned had quietly bought a controlling stake in the world she lived in. Not out of pettiness, not out of revenge, but because she'd given him the perfect cover. The fantasies, the arrogance, the dinner confession. It hadn't embarrassed him. It had unleashed him. She fumbled her phone, tried texting him. "Charlie, what is this? Please call me." No response. She tried again. "I don't understand what's happening. I didn't know." "You didn't say." 3 dots appeared, then vanished. Then a message came through. Exactly. That was it. One word. But she felt it in her bones. He wasn't ghosting her. He wasn't hiding. He was watching her realize it, piece by piece, brick by brick. He was letting the truth bloom inside her brain. Slow, painful, irreversible. Her husband hadn't just destroyed the merger, he'd erased her place inside it. And now her own name felt like the alias. His, that was the real one. The one she never knew. The dinner was supposed to be celebratory. A quiet upscale affair for the inner circle to toast the final step before the merger signing. But the room was dead silent when Melissa stepped in alone. Every chair at the private table inside Del Mar's, the priciest glass-walled restaurant downtown, was filled with tightly wounded executives, all gripping their forks like weapons. Napkins barely touched, half-filled wine glasses abandoned. She scanned the room for Daniel. Nothing. The only empty chair was the one beside hers. Across the table, Novatech's general counsel, a stone-faced woman named Adele Brooks, stared at her without blinking. No smile, no small talk, just pure clinical dissection. Melissa took her seat like she was walking into surgery. 15 minutes passed. Still no Daniel. The waiters hovered, then disappeared. No one ordered, then the side door opened. Daniel Mercer entered. No tie, top button undone, hair slightly damp at the temples. He looked like he'd just walked out of a deposition or into one. No one stood. He mumbled a half apology and took the remaining seat beside Melissa. She noticed immediately. His hands were shaking. She'd never seen that before. Not once in 10 years of working under him. He reached for the wine, missed the glass slightly. That's when Adele reached into her briefcase and pulled out a folder. Quietly, no ceremony, just slid it onto the table like it was the bill for the evening. "Daniel," she said, her voice almost kind, like someone delivering hospice news. "You should have disclosed." He froze, one hand still hovering over the untouched bread plate. Adele opened the folder slowly, page by page, like a prosecuting attorney, savoring every clause. Clause 14. B, subsection 3, conflict disclosure failure. You were personally involved with a direct report spouse during a pending merger involving equity transitions and shared IP access. Melissa's mouth went dry. Daniel didn't respond, didn't move. Adele continued, "You never disclosed your relationship with Melissa Langston to the board. Despite repeated compliance updates, despite onboarding instructions, despite our direct email queries last quarter, this wasn't a relationship," Daniel said through his teeth. "It was. You're exposed," she cut him off. "Personally, legally, financially," she tapped a line in the document. "Voidance of executive indemnity. This applies retroactively. You will carry personal liability for any damages Novate sustains if this merger collapses due to undisclosed internal conflicts." Another page flipped. Melissa leaned in, trying to speak. "We never," but Adele wasn't looking at her. She was looking at Daniel. And Daniel, he was pale now. He'd stopped shaking. Now he was just still. Too still. "This is insane," he finally muttered. "We were days away from final approval. We had mutual agreement on IP carve-outs. The press embargo was already lifted." Adele didn't smile. "And now your lack of disclosure might cost our shareholders 8 figures, which incidentally they can sue you for personally, not Courage." Melissa's breath caught. She looked around the table. Not one person met her eyes. Even the CFO who once flirted with her during team retreats was staring at his hands. "You're scapegoating me," Daniel snapped, trying to summon his usual fury. "This is politics." "It's paperwork," Adele replied. Then she reached for the last page and set it down in front of him. It was signed, already dated. "Termination proposal, emergency board session. Prepared in advance." Daniel's signature line was blank. Melissa leaned over, whispering, "They're not just coming for you, Daniel. He turned, eyes bloodshot. "What the hell did your husband do?" She didn't answer. Not because she was protecting Charles, but because she honestly didn't know. She only knew what she'd caused. The dinner was over before it started. The chairs scraped back one by one like the board was exiting a funeral. The CFO walked out first, then the Novate COO, then Adele, who simply closed her folder and didn't say goodbye. Daniel sat there blinking, sweat forming at his collar. Melissa reached for his hand. He pulled away. "You were the fantasy," he whispered. "Now you're the reason." She watched him crumble in real time and realized too late that fantasies don't just burn out. Sometimes they implode everything they touch. Melissa didn't go home right away. She couldn't face the silence of the house, the echoes of her own voice saying those words over dinner. "It's just one night with my CEO." Instead, she drove in circles, past old brunch spots, past the boutique where she once joked about needing Thworthy heels, past the yoga studio where she told her friends Charles just didn't get it anymore. Eventually, instinct took her to the only place left that still had her name on the door, her office. She wasn't supposed to be there. HR had officially placed her on leave, pending review, but her badge hadn't been deactivated here yet. Different systems, maybe. Or maybe just a delay. Like the universe was giving her one final walk through the wreckage before it all locked shut. She entered her glass-walled office slowly, expecting judgmental stares. But the floor was nearly empty. Deserted. Everyone was either at crisis meetings or hiding from them. Melissa stepped behind her desk like muscle memory. The scent of expensive toner and artificial orchids still lingered. Her chair groaned the same way. Her screens were dark. She didn't even know what she was looking for. Answers, explanations, a reset button. Then she saw it. A manila folder unmarked, slightly out of place on the corner of her desk. Not like something she'd leave there. She always filed everything immediately, especially things that weren't hers. Inside a printed document, sharp, formal formatting, non-disclosure agreement, advisory conflict briefing, dated 3 weeks ago and signed. But her name was listed clearly in the subject line, alongside Daniel's and Charles's. Her breath caught in her throat. She flipped to the signature lines, blank but neatly prepared. The clause in bold at the top, disclosure of personal relationships affecting executive decision-making, must be reported prior to strategic negotiations or face automatic review under compliance escalation protocols. She didn't remember seeing this. Had Charles shown it to her? Had he left it for her to find? Or worse, had he planted it knowing she wouldn't notice? The date was before she even told him about the fantasy, which meant he'd known before she said it out loud. Her hand trembled as she set the paper down. That's when her phone buzzed. A known number, no name, no icon, just a message. You weren't the only one he briefed. Then a second message arrived. No words, just an invite. Special board session, conflict review. Time 9 a.m. today. Location, Novatech HQ Secure Executive Wing. She stared at it. Not Courage. Novatech, her husband's world, and somehow hers now, or what used to be hers. She slumped back in her chair, the office lights flickering slightly, as if the building itself was done pretending to welcome her. The worst part wasn't the betrayal. It was the architecture of it all. She could see it now. The design. The patience. Charles hadn't retaliated. He hadn't exploded. He hadn't raised his voice or packed a bag or made threats. He'd simply briefed the right people, set up a calendar invite, let the clauses do the killing. She opened her laptop, tried to access Courage's internal portal. Access denied, HR profile removed, corporate email suspended. She stared at the screen, stunned. then opened a private tab and searched her own name. One result popped up, a news aggregation site listing the Core Edge Novate merger delay. A single comment quoted an anonymous source. Unreported relationships compromised executive trust. The fallout was avoidable. She didn't know who leaked it, but she knew who arranged it. The calendar notification dinged again on her phone. The meeting was starting. She wasn't invited, just notified. That subtle surgical difference. She stood up slowly. Her reflection in the glass looked unfamiliar. Rumpled, desperate, excluded. And for the first time since that fateful dinner, the guilt sank in. Not just over what she'd done, but over what she never bothered to learn. She had loved the comfort of being underestimated until it turned her invisible, until her husband used that very invisibility to design her collapse. And now she was the paper trail left behind in a file drawer and signed unread. Irrelevant took Melissa 3 tries to load the site. Her fingers kept slipping on the trackpad, and the internet in the coffee shop felt like it was throttling just for her. The news had broken 20 minutes ago. She was already behind. Her phone was useless. Group chats were silent. Daniel still hadn't returned her calls. The last message from her assistant was simply, "I was told to stop all correspondence. I'm sorry." So now here she was, sitting in a booth between a screaming toddler and an overenthusiastic barista trying to read the press release that had detonated her professional life. The Novatech investor relations site was glowing like a loaded gun. Press release. Strategic Oversight Advisory Restructure. Effective immediately, Novatech announces the formation of a Transitional Oversight Committee to navigate post-Megger compliance disruptions. The 4th paragraph hit like a sniper round. Charles H. Langston, an independent strategic counsel with expertise in risk governance, has been appointed to advise the transitional team and assist in evaluating conflict of interest breakdowns that led to the collapse of the Core Edge deal. She froze, stared, reread it 5 times. No, it wasn't a typo. He wasn't listed as a consultant or a temporary reviewer or an external observer. He was advising the transitional team, the same team responsible for overseeing what remained of the deal she had helped build from scratch. The same team now responsible for unbuilding it. Then came the quote, short, brutal. Integrity matters. So does silence. Charles H. Langston. No flourish, no elaboration. Just those 6 words clipped and sharpened like razors. Melissa sat back, chest hollowing. Her legs felt numb under the table. The comments were already rolling in beneath the news article. That's how you dismantle an empire. Silence isn't weakness, it's ammunition. He played long game and won. Damn. Is this the same guy his wife cheated on? Jesus. She wanted to look away. Couldn't. Her husband had just stepped into the public light once, and it was to put the final nail in the merger's coffin. And somehow, no one blamed him. The public sentiment wasn't pity. It was awe. Her own humiliation was now crowdsourced. She closed the laptop slowly and stared into the foam of her untouched cappuccino. Charles, the man who used to quietly refill the bird feeder every Saturday. The one who hated office gossip. Never joined in at company parties. Never wanted a LinkedIn presence. Never even shared what he did for work beyond just consulting. That man just made a power move so silent, so meticulous, that Novatech's board trusted him to clean up the wreckage. He hadn't taken revenge. He'd taken position. He was now the watchdog, the regulator, the steady hand helping investors navigate the fallout of a scandal she'd ignited with one careless comment over dinner and a glass of wine. Melissa looked around the cafe. No one knew her here, but she swore she felt the air itself lean away from her. She pulled out her phone again, opened their old shared calendar, something she hadn't touched since he'd vanished from it. There it was, a private note attached to the day the merger was supposed to close. Deadlines don't scare me. Liabilities do. She closed the app. Her stomach sank. This wasn't about jealousy or betrayal or even vindication. It was about liability. And in Charles's eyes, she wasn't his wife anymore. She was a risk documented, disclosed, removed. He wasn't just the husband anymore. He was the reason the deal died. And she was now the footnote to his story. Melissa stared at the blinking cursor on her phone screen like it might blink back with forgiveness. "Hey, can we talk?" Sent, delivered. No response. She waited 10 minutes and then tried again. "I know it's been a crazy week. I just need to talk to someone who remembers me." Not this version. The story. Everyone's spinning. Another hour. Still nothing. This was Grace, her oldest friend. Maid of honor. Godmother to her niece. The woman who once helped her lie to her boss about food poisoning just to extend a weekend in Napa. Now nothing. She scrolled through her contacts, tapping each name like she was knocking on closed doors. Paul, Stephanie, Ron, even Melinda from spin class. Every message read. None returned until finally one buzzed back. Grace. But it wasn't what she expected. "You should have told me who Charles really was." Melissa froze, not what Charles did, who he was, as if he'd been wearing a mask this whole time. And she'd kept that mask hidden from everyone, while claiming to know him better than anyone. She typed a reply, deleted it, typed again. "I didn't know." She meant it, but she didn't send it because even now, she wasn't sure it would matter. The damage was no longer just viral. It was personal. The silence of friends wasn't passive anymore. It was chosen. By mid-afternoon, the only people left were family, and that's when she made her next mistake. She drove to her parents' place. Her father answered the door with a face like cold marble. "Hi, Dad," she said, trying to force a smile. He didn't move, didn't open the screen door, just stood there, arms crossed, eyes scanning her like she was a stranger. I needed to talk," she said quietly. "Talk about what?" he replied. "How you blew up the only stable thing this family was holding on to." She blinked. "I didn't know." "You didn't care to," he snapped. "That man warned us 10 years ago. I remember it. Sitting right in this house, told you to be cautious, to think long term. And what did you do? Mocked him. Said he was too careful, too calculated. Guess what? Turns out he was 10 steps ahead." Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. "I lost 200 grand in this merger." He said, "Retirement stock. You think that's just paper losses to someone my age?" "Dad, I didn't do this to you." "No, he said you did it to him and he used it." He stepped back from the door slightly, hands still on the knob. "You don't get to cry about this." You lit the match and handed it to the man holding the map. "I'm not mad he burned it down. I'm mad you didn't realize he could." The screen door stayed closed. Her mother didn't come out. There was no hug, no warm kitchen smell, no refuge. Just the echo of the door closing softly behind her as she stepped off the porch. Melissa sat in her car and stared at the dashboard, blinking back tears that didn't come. She wasn't numb. Not anymore. She was absent, erased from rooms she once owned. Shut out of friendships she thought were unshakable. A pariah in her own family. Not because she cheated, but because she misjudged the one man nobody really understood. Charles had never raised his voice, never tried to make a spectacle, but he didn't have to. His silence had become a gravity well, pulling everything into it until her entire life collapsed inward. And now no one was asking, why did Charles do this? They were all asking, why didn't you see it coming? Melissa looked at herself in the rearview mirror. Mascara smeared, hair in disarray, lipstick cracked. She didn't look like a victim. She looked like someone who just realized the empire she built had been resting on a foundation she never even bothered to read. Melissa parked down the block from the Courage building, half expecting someone to be waiting. HR, maybe security, a process server if things really hit rock bottom. But no one was there. Just the same revolving glass doors spinning with people pretending they didn't know what had happened. She hadn't set foot here in 4 days. Felt like 4 years. Her blazer was wrinkled, her heels pinched. But she walked with purpose anyway, because it was all she had left. That and a single goal: retrieve her personal items. A drawer full of notebooks, a framed photo from a Cancun conference, a scarf she loved too much to leave behind. The lobby was quieter than usual. Early morning, maybe. Or maybe people were just avoiding her. She nodded at the front desk. No response. Swiped her badge. Beep. Red light. She tried again. Red again. Can I help you? The security guard finally asked, polite but cold. I'm here to clear out my office. Name? She hesitated absurdly. Melissa Langston. The guard tapped something into the monitor. His face didn't change. I'm sorry. Your access has been fully revoked. You'll need an escort. 1 moment. She waited. People passed by. Colleagues, interns, junior execs she used to mentor. None of them stopped. Some glanced, most didn't. One even flinched when she made eye contact, like shame was contagious. Security returned. Someone from HR will meet you in the elevator bay. And just like that, she was escorted like a stranger, like a threat, through the very halls she once helped decorate during rebranding. Past the mural she'd commissioned, past the glass-walled office that used to be hers, now empty. No nameplate, no desk, not even her chair. They hadn't reassigned the space. They'd erased it. HR handed her a sealed box with her name scribbled on the side in marker. No ceremony, no final meeting, not even a clipboard to sign. Just, here's what's left of you. She didn't cry. Not then. She carried the box down herself, 1 step at a time, heels clicking in a rhythm that once echoed power, now just resignation. As she reached the curb, a sleek black town car pulled up. It stopped just ahead of her, the kind you order for board members or visiting VPs. The rear door opened. Her hands froze on the box. Charles stepped out. Tailored suit, calm posture, that same unassuming composure he always had. Like he was part of the wallpaper, until suddenly he was the room. 2 Courage board members exited the building right then. Charles extended a hand. They shook it, smiled. One even laughed. Laughed like they'd forgotten she existed. Like her replacement wasn't a replacement. It was an upgrade. She stood frozen on the curb, cardboard box digging into her ribs, watching her husband. No, not husband now. Her architect step into her world and fill it like he'd always belonged. He never looked at her. Not once. Not a glance. Not a pause. Not even a flicker of recognition. And that was the worst part. He didn't hate her. He just didn't need to see her because in his mind, she wasn't the threat anymore. She was already processed, logged, archived, decommissioned. Charles walked up the steps into the building, flanked by men who once only knew him as Melissa's quiet husband. Now they greeted him as a peer, an asset, maybe even a savior. She stood there long after he disappeared into the glass. Wind hit her face, not sharp, but hollow, like a whisper from a story that had already ended. She looked down at the box in her arms. One side had begun to cave in from the weight, just like her. The recording came from an anonymous inbox. No name, no subject, just a single audio file. Investor Roundtable Unairs, closed Unairs 5 a.m., MP3. Melissa stared at it, thumb hovering. Her hands were trembling, but not from fear. Something worse. Anticipation mixed with dread. The kind that coils deep in your stomach when you already know the outcome, but your body hasn't caught up. She sat alone in the guest room at her sister's house. Her old room, the one with faded wallpaper and a sagging mattress, where she'd spent her high school years scribbling in diaries and dreaming about men with yachts and corner offices. The irony was venomous. She hit play. A few seconds of static, then voices. Muted, calm, expensive voices. The cadence of men who make decisions before breakfast that shift markets. Then a voice broke through. "Charles," my wife once said, "it's just one night." Melissa's breath caught. His voice was clear, controlled, not angry, not smug, just deliberate. "That night," he continued, "cost this company $480 million in pre-valuation, not to mention a decade of credibility." Silence. She heard paper shuffle, a pen click, someone clear their throat. Nervous tells in a room full of people who suddenly remember just how fast things fall apart when they bet on the wrong person. Charles continued, "Let's not pretend the valuation was lost due to market volatility. It wasn't. It was lost because of internal negligence, because people got comfortable, lazy, entitled." She could hear him flipping a page. "I didn't speak up for 18 years, not because I couldn't, but because I was waiting, watching, measuring what people do when they think silence means weakness." Someone in the room, probably a compliance officer, tried to cut in. "Mr. Langston, this is off record as discussed," but Charles spoke right over him. "No, this is exactly the record because this isn't about personal betrayal anymore. It's about governance, transparency, and consequence." Melissa swallowed hard, hand gripping the edge of the nightstand. Charles paused. The silence in the call stretched long, heavy, unavoidable. Then he delivered it. The final blow. "I've chosen not to press civil charges. That was my gift." The words landed like a verdict. She sat frozen, barely breathing, as if moving might make it worse. He wasn't suing. Not her, not Daniel, not Cage. He was letting it all burn. That's what made it so brutal. He wasn't seeking restitution. He didn't want an apology. He wasn't begging for justice or trying to clear his name. He was offering mercy. And somehow that hurt more because mercy means, I already won. I don't need more from you. She let the audio play to the end. Just as the call wrapped, someone on the recording muttered, "Jesus Christ." Another voice replied, "We should have known." Melissa hit stop. There it was, laid bare. No press coverage, no media frenzy. Just the private surgical confirmation of her erasure from business, from credibility, from him. He had spoken once cleanly, unemotionally, and then stepped back, not out of pity, but out of power. She looked at her phone again. No new messages, no missed calls, not a single attempt from anyone to get her side of the story. Why would they? The story was already over, written, closed, and she was no longer the narrator. She was the lesson. The house was silent again, not in the peaceful way it used to be when Charles brewed his evening tea and read policy journals in the den, but the kind of silence that made furniture feel heavier, like everything was watching her now, judging, remembering. Melissa sat on the edge of the bed they used to share. The room still too clean from when she'd staged it for mental clarity. back when she thought she could reset everything with sage and skin treatments. Now it just looked like a model home nobody wanted to live in. Her phone lay next to her. Screen dim, notifications non-existent. She had nothing left to check. No job, no friends. Her parents weren't speaking to her. Charles was a ghost, but one with a boardroom, a title, and a press quote that would follow her name like a shadow for the rest of her life. She pulled up their old text thread, scrolled past memories that now felt like someone else's. Memes he sent at midnight. Pictures of their dog from years ago, recipes they never made. The last message she had sent before everything exploded was short, almost cruel in its simplicity. Dinner late. Mercer wants to talk strategy. Winking face. The wink. God. She actually thought that was funny. She typed slowly, carefully. Was any of it real? Her thumb hovered over the send button longer than it should have. Not because she was afraid he wouldn't respond, but because she wasn't sure she deserved to know. She hit send anyway. Then she waited. Not for long. 3 minutes later, her phone buzzed. Just once she opened it, heart hammering, hands already cold. It was until you mistook silence for weakness. No signature, no warmth, no anger either, just punctuation. A sentence that didn't scream, didn't beg, didn't try to rewrite the past. It just ended it. Melissa read it once, twice, the third time. Then she locked her phone and set it face down on the nightstand. The quiet pressed in again. But this time, it wasn't just the absence of sound. It was the presence of finality. She lay back on the bed, fully clothed, arms at her sides, not crying, not fighting, just still. The ceiling above her didn't move. The air didn't shift. The world didn't care. And in that stillness, one truth echoed back louder than any scream. She had underestimated the one man who never tried to win her because he never needed to. She'd handed him every tool, and he built an exit. Not for himself, for her. Now she would live in what was left, a name that no longer opened doors, a bed that no longer felt shared, a memory wrapped in silence, one she'd never escape, and a single line burned forever into the back of her mind.